just like I know that this stuff is getting out of control. But I
Yep.
want to point out something that we did state back in our previous videos, especially the video all angles, the one about the rioting, the protest.
Right.
We told y'all, we told y'all, we told y'all, we told y'all. But Cisco, speaking of the situation that's going on with Mr. Jacob Blake, a young man out of Kenosha, Washington.
Wisconsin.
What? Wisconsin, my bad, Wisconsin. What in the world was that? What did we just witness again?
Well, initially, what I would like to say is just this is going along what I've been saying for a long time with you on and offline. Um, and that is there are new rules of engagement. I said it in the previous video where there has been different cities in the United States where the locals have protested about the police being trained overseas, specifically in the state of Israel, and that led me to because I've been knowing about this for years, and I said that is at the beginning of all during the Obama administration, I was saying it's clearly new rules of engagement, and it is. And I think this case with Jacob Blake is the prime example. It's like a perfect case study for new rules of engagement. And why I say that is because here we are seeing a man who, at least from the video, appears to be unarmed, non-threatening. He has his back. He's not obeying, but he has his back to police officers. Now, some people are saying that they deployed a taser before shooting, but even still, there is no time of space between him being hit by the taser, if true, towards their next step or next course of action. What we see is if there is a taser shot, you just see you shoot a man near, basically at point blank range in the back several times, and
Mm,
that type of thing. Although we have, I mean, I know some people will say this has been happening all along, and there's credence to that claim, but what we've seen in through the Obama era up until now is a consistent repetitive behavior where there is absolutely no tolerance for disobeying the police. You disobey the
correct.
police, they gonna knock your ass off. And
Correct.
I hate to say it like that, but that's what it is.
Yeah. What I was going to say was, I have gotten very numb to these situations. Um, and that's not a good thing. So if anybody feels like me, it's really not a good thing, Cisco. We should be shocked. We should be emotionally tied to these situations. However, my one next question would be, why don't we see white men that get shot down in the street put up on the news like this? What is
There's
up with that?
there's a couple reasons. Um, One is every black person in America, and I will even include Native Americans and Hispanics, but specifically black people in one regard. And I'll put as a subcategory Native Americans and indigenous people. We carry a burden of hundreds of years of oppression, murder, rape, and pillaging that is in our conscious and subconscious mind. So we have a immediate reaction to these type of things. We have an immediate reaction to, so that's one factor in it. The second factor is what I believe is the psychological effect of hiding cases where there are white people being, because there's new rules of engagement across the board. And there was a time actually where in Obama administration where there was retaliation by white people where they were killing cops in different various places around America, and it was not getting reported at all. And so I believe that they understand that the response of black people is protest, shouting, and and basically probably even tearing up your own neighborhood. Whereas the response of white people would be basically they would, if these cases of first of all, they're in disparaging numbers, meaning that they're not happening they're happening in areas where they know that the situation can be controlled as long as it's out of the media, or they hear about it late.
Mhm.
um that's one thing. You look at the place. This is a place where the white population is 77.1%, and the black people are 10% of the population in this area. So anything that happens, you got to understand what that means. Out of 10 people, there's one black person. Out of 100, there's 10. So
Mhm.
they're going to be hypersensitive to anything that's in unjust, because your numbers are low already. And that's not to exclude all of the other issues in those. Uh, I might as well throw this in there. Those democratically run cities, which this is one, uh, where there is a small, isolated, or concentrated black population, where you have your, of course, it's going to happen. You're going to have your drugs, you're going to have your crime areas, you're going to have your gang violence, da 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 da. When they, when a population like that is faced with something like this, they're gonna immediately react. Whereas these cases that aren't being heard of about white people, they're happening. Those places, they're happening in places where it's easy for them to kind of sweep it under the rug, because one, some of those places the people are docile. I've seen it happen in Montana. I've seen it happen in Las Vegas. I've seen it happen in certain places in California. And the way, once it gets to the media, the way they'll spin it is, I think, and I shouldn't speak for them, but I would say the average American is so caught up in life that when they see it, oh, he must have been high on drugs or something, and they just, because they don't bear that stuff that I talked about, that we bear some stuff in our head that's hundreds of years old.
Mhm.
And so that's why we don't hear about we don't hear about it, because it's not happening in the same neighborhood. It's not happening in the same area. It's not even happening by the same officers. How about that? If
You're
we were to
right.
go if we were to go by case, if we would go case by case, look at, like, because this is probably going to be relevant, I think, depending on what you ask me. Let's look at the officer involved in Michael Brown. That guy doesn't have, to my knowledge, now somebody out there in YouTube streets can correct me, but that guy didn't have issues of police brutality with white people. We can go to the officers with Sandra Bland. I'm talking about the arresting officers, the white one. And we can go case by case and look at these officers. Are they like this across the board? Or are they like this in these places where blacks are concentrated in a minority? Look at the case where, what was that case? Was that in Baltimore or DC, where the guy was thrown in the back of the truck and his neck was broken?
Freddie Gray, Baltimore.
Right. And now some of those were, a lot of those were black officers, correct?
Yeah, a couple of them. Yeah.
Okay, but I guarantee you, those some of those cops got records of being having police brutality with black people in their own in their own neighborhoods. So this is what I'm saying. These incidences with these white cops with white people, these are like hybrid cases. Whereas I know from my own research, the cops that are involved with these with black people, they got a track record of doing this type of stuff. And now we just come out, what was this, about a month ago? They got a whole gang in California or in LA
Yeah, the
with their tattoo and
execution.
everything. Exactly. Where
Hmm.
no, yeah, where you can't even be, you can't join if you black, and they target black people.
I'm going to say that one more time. The executions,
There you
because
go.
that has not been pumped in the media enough for me. So my people over there in LA, the executioners, point blank, period. You know what I'm saying? Um, so
Where's
back,
the Let me just
go.
throw this question out. Just let me throw this question. Where's the where's these cops that have history of police brutality? Where they at in Portland? Nowhere to be found.
Mhm. Well, Portland has been going up for days. I mean, months, literally back to back days of these people are just they're going up. I mean, they're emotionally distraught. You know, I don't even know what else to how else to put this stuff.
I
I've
didn't
been
mean to
reading.
I didn't mean to throw you off with that. So I
No,
want
you're
you to ask,
good.
I wanted you to say what you was gonna say. I just wanted to throw that out there because because we have to know there's police brutality in Portland.
Of course, of course. But my
W-
thing about it is, I read a couple articles that are talking about Generation Z and also millennials and how we react. I'm a millennial. Um, and we can be very anxious. We're already anxious and already emotionally screwed up. So this is all very interesting because it ties back into these protests and how people are now reacting to these injustices that we are seeing. Because you're right, this is nothing but an injustice. The man's children were allegedly in the car.
Well, you
And the
remember that
woman,
case a few years ago with the black woman that
oh
had
my God.
all her kids in the van and they shot it up?
Yeah, I remember that one. Do you remember the one? Gosh, this is so sad. Do you remember the army lady in Virginia? I think Virginia Beach. She was coming out of a store and some about they shot her car up with her daughter inside. Um,
Right.
Orlando Castile, that was a sick situation right there. That was just sick. That was sick. So now we have Jacob. Hopefully, he does survive. I don't believe that he has passed at this time of making this video on August 24th. But that officer let off several shots into this man point blank range. And you look at this stuff and you picture, black men that black men that are in your family, and you just hope and pray they don't come across a police officer like this. Because either way it goes, I don't think his life was in danger necessarily. But like you said, it's new ways of engagement. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
new training is allowing this to happen. Police unions are allowing this to happen. Um, we really have to get to the root of this issue. What do you think the root is, Cisco?
I think the root is that there's definitely uh although the public doesn't isn't aware of it, I just believe there's a new policy in play that the public, we're still under the dream of the Constitution. We're under the dream that we have rights, and I'm not saying that all of our rights are gone, but if you're in a situation and you think that you're gonna argue with a cop, just make sure you know where you're at, because if you're in one of these places, and LA know exactly what I know, she knows exactly what I mean about those places. If you're in one of
Mhm.
those places, chances are you may not survive the incident.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
you may not survive the incident because I truly believe there are, and I'm not saying that the Kenosha Police Department went to the state of Israel and trained. And if you want to get a literal picture of what I'm talking about, how does the Israeli military, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases that have found its way to American media, how do they deal with Palestinians that aren't armed? If you don't obey, they kill you.
mm.
At least they shoot you or whoop your ass real bad.
So, do you think that some of these officers are coming back from the military, maybe?
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother factor. Absolutely. That's a whole nother
Okay.
factor. That's a factor. Some of these guys are coming back from the military. They are, shell shocked. They in the military, from people that I've talked to face, they dehumanize the people so that it's easier to do what you have to do. And that's why some of these guys come back and have all kind of psychological problems because of the things that they've done. A lot of times when they come back, they don't have another way to get a job other than to become a police officer.
Right. Right. Well,
You yeah. And then I remember years back. This is in the early 2000s, and I think it was in Denver, Colorado. And I'm not saying this is part of the case. You had a situation where cops were, and this is when you see these big buff cops. They had a steroid problem where cops were having steroid rages and killing people or harming people. There's a whole lot of factors to put in play. Another one is you got people that do not connect with the local population that they work in. They have no connect. Now think about a city like this where 77% of the population is white and 10% is black. Uh, Chances are where this happened, this cop, he didn't grow up there. He did he Cops don't do what happened in our parents' generation where they walked the beat, they got to know people, they got to know who's around. They
mhm.
talked that, somebody who was wanted, they could go to their house and talk to their mama and say, have him turn himself in. Them days is gone. These cops work in the inner cities, live way out in the suburbs, have no disconnection, and sometimes the cops come from other states. Just like
Oh,
there's another situation where you had some southern racist cops who were on the force in 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 the inner cities, where some of these what we call chocolate cities, and they coming from, you know, segregated racist South. And I'm not trying to diss the South, but y'all know some of these places in the South is still considered sundown towns. Nigga,
yeah.
you need to be in your place or get dealt with. Now you bring a cop like that and put him in LA, put him in New York, put him in Baltimore, Chicago, or Kenosha. How is he
Well,
going?
thought. I have another thought, Cisco, and it just crossed my mind. We just brainstorm. We just kicking it, but we're talking about real stuff. Um,
Indeed.
what do you think about the push for technology, no, technocracy, AI? What do you think about them continuing these actions, and then we have a robot police force pop up?
Well,
Is that possible?
it's funny. I just listened the other day to a lecture about in the past how they used to teach dogs to be racist. Well, you can also teach AI to be racist as well. And how do we know that is just like when Microsoft had their AI bot on Twitter and had to take it down in less than 24 hours. It's AI is this is machine learning. They learn human behaviors, so they can be taught to. And think about it. I'll give you a reference, a movie reference. I love to use movie references. Go back to the movie with Will Smith, I Robot.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
At the beginning of the movie, the AI robot had to decide whether to save the little girl or to save the cop. And the AI, no feelings, wouldn't try to save the daughter. I mean, the little girl. It had a bunch of directives that was programmed. Oh, that little girl ain't gonna survive. Let me go and save the cop and let the little girl die. And that's the same. And now you put that in context of AI robot working in the inner cities. It's
Mm,
gonna, yeah, it's and actually, if you look at this case, the same case, there is no feeling. You see how you just said you're being numbed by this scenario.
yeah.
Think about a cop being dehumanized to not have any feelings.
Mm, mm.
You disobeyed a directive, you die. Simple as that. You disobey a directive, you die. Ain't no reasoning, there's no logic, there's no feeling, compassion, there's no humanity. Just you disobeyed me. Now it's time for you to die.
And that's why I went back to that reference of the technology push that we're having.
Right.
Is this something that we're headed to? They're already hooked up to computers now. They're already hooked up to cameras now. The police car is very high tech. I don't know if anybody has ever been in a police car or anything, but they're high tech as hell now. And I just want to say this from the bottom of my heart, black men, I love you. Please be safe out here.
For
Please,
sure.
please, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
God.
coming. It's coming. I would say it's coming for the CV. Singapore brought out their AI dogs to monitor social distancing. You can type that up in YouTube and see the AI dogs that they're using over there. When will it come to America? I think it could be an issue, and it could be an issue where some of our uh, uh, white American patriots may not stand for that, and that's why I tell uh, uh, black people don't put don't wipe all white folks with one brush, because some of them, although we may not agree on all points, I think once, and I said this before, once the educated uh, And I don't, when I say educated, I don't mean that they have to go to college, or I can say the awakened white person understands what's happening to this country, even though it may be at the hands, even though the black people may be the victims. They know that we're just the guinea pig because our numbers don't match their numbers. And if they can, those awakened white folks, they know if it can happen to us, it can happen to them.
Well, I'm kind of tired of being called the minority
Oh,
because
oh,
the
we're not
knowledge
the minority. There's,
exactly. I don't like that. I
yeah,
don't like
we're
that
we're we're
knowledge
we're
at
not
all.
minor. We're not minor. It's just that our numbers. And then we know there's a game. There's a whole game with that also too, with the Census Bureau. There's a whole game with a whole game being played on us with all that as well. Otherwise, the state of Georgia uh, would have fell in line with the one drop rule, and that's the one place that didn't fall in line with the one drop rule. So you got a whole lot of people today that are whether they live in the state of Georgia or not, they're descendants of black folks. That was the
Well,
one place that the one drop rule didn't apply to.
yeah, I understand what you were saying about, the white people and not thinking that all of them are alike. Recently, I had a conversation with a three percenter and I didn't even know it. And and the dude just came out. He was like, "Yeah, I'm a three percenter," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Well, what does that mean? What does that entail?" And he was just like, "Well, pretty much, if something happens to this country and this, that, and the third, or my property, and and I was just like, oh, okay, okay, but
See, yeah, see, those type aren't aren't they ain't gonna move until something moves on them. The problem is
mhm,
the people that try to rub elbows with us, in my opinion, are the fakers.
mm,
Not all of them, but they have another agenda. And all you got to do is just look at the George Floyd case, how it went from police brutality to LGBTQ rights. And I know I have to say something that I shouldn't have to say. Hey, do whatever you want to do. I'm not one of these people that are against. Everybody has freedom of choice. So by me saying that, I'm not attacking y'all. Just chill out, okay? But what I am saying is, y'all rubbed elbows with the. I'm an anti-pro. I don't believe in protesting. I don't believe it has any benefit. Okay, and I know somebody gonna get in the comments and jump on me for that. I don't care. That's just my opinion. But the people that was rubbing elbows with them police brutality that on the George Floyd, those same people rubbed elbows and rubbed shoulders and changed the whole damn direction, and they've been doing that for years. But them three percenter types, they are not gonna come out to uh 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 uh, um what's the guy's name, Jacob Blake protest and say, or go into to the city hall or go to the chief of police and say, hey, look, we're not standing for you to knock down Americans, whether they're black or white. They're not going to do that. They're not going to
mm,
do that. They're not going to move until they get moved on.
mm, 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 mm.
They're just not. And unless one of these militia type groups, and I'm definitely not talking about the one y'all want me to talk about, but I'm not. I'm just gonna leave that alone. But uh, one of these majority white militia groups that has black members in it, unless one of their militia members is attacked unjustly, it's not gonna happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. Although it probably, because they have the ability to affect change through those kind of demands where they show a bunch of white men in military gear with guns and stuff and show up. They have the ability to I'm not going to say affect change, but let their demands be heard. Whereas black folks and these black folks and these BLM and Antifa people, we should know by now what the template is and what's going to happen out of that. And, and
Right.
and and if we don't know by now, then okay, we just gonna keep getting bit in the ass.
That's true because I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Like, do we need to take all of these Black Lives Matter people and redirect them to these like state officials and really like what the heck is going on? Like
No,
this
because they
stuff,
getting paid. They
well,
ain't
this
gonna
stuff
do it.
happening on people's, blood in the streets. This can't keep happening. Like something is going to tilt. you know, I can
Well,
feel it.
well, like I
It's
say, the
tilt.
it's a this Kenosha was a prime place. When you're 10% of the population, we cannot assume, or actually, we can assume that the people aren't together. They just live probably in, black neighborhoods, so called, and but they aren't. They probably aren't unified, so to speak. And that's what allows a BLM to come in while they're um, expressing their pain for whatever happened to the person from their community. That allows them to come in there and do what they do.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's one thing that we also need to learn is that again, it takes a village. It really, really takes a village. And I'm going to end this video off with a statement that I posted on my social media platforms from Paul Mooney. He said we either gonna hang together or hang separately, but we all gonna hang. And I might put that clip into this video. But you guys, let's let's just give love, light, and a lot of energy to Jacob Blake so that he can survive this situation, so that he can tell us his story, so that he doesn't have to be another hashtag, another face on a t-shirt. Let me know what you guys think down below. I know you guys will, and we will be back with more.